I know a lot of you think I don't like Baker Mayfield. But I can say this full disclosure. I offered him a job a year ago on my little podcast company. I think he's going to be a great broadcaster if he wants to. He passed. He declined. Totally get it. But I'm watching him. It's perfect. He's got the grit, and he's a perfect fit. This team's great for him. I would not want any part of Tampa in the playoffs. I mean, didn't they beat Philly and Detroit? Didn't they take Kansas City to overtime? I mean, what they did to the Chargers yesterday, the number one defense, took them apart in L.A. I mean, took them apart. You can't run on them because of Vitavia. You can't run on them, yet they can run on you because they have an excellent GM. They have multiple. J-Mac touched on this a couple months ago. They have multiple running backs. You can't cover Mike Evans as he ages gracefully. He and Baker are totally connected at the hip. Tristan Wirfs now is the highest graded left tackle pass blocking, and this team's going to play with house money. So the best Baker is always Baker with a chip on his shoulder. That is Tampa. I would not be surprised at all. Listen, they could host Green Bay in a playoff game. If I'm Green Bay, I want no part of that. It is scary to face a team that is really good, getting healthy, and they're playing with house money. And I said this, when Baker went to Tampa, I said Baker's got an Ybor City feel to him. That's a fun part of Tampa, kind of a party area. And I said Baker, he's bounced around the league a little bit, but we know he can play. It's never been a question if he can play. But there's a little bit of a rebel, a little bit of an outlaw to Baker, and I've always felt there's a little bit. Tampa's a legendary mob city. Tampa's had its own little. It's like it's on the fringes of the NFL, but it's in the NFL. And I just think he is such a good fit for them. And when he signed the contract, I said I would absolutely give Baker a 3 or a 4 year contract. I'm not going to pay him $60 million, but I'd pay him $38 million bucks. And I'm watching them yesterday. This Chargers team, you don't move the ball like that on them. And they went up and down the field. It wasn't really competitive. And a lot of it is just Baker's swagger and his confidence and the run game, and they protect him, and here's Baker after.
Offensive line took over, and that was really the biggest difference there in the second half. Those guys played unbelievable up front, and defense, complimentary football game. That's a physical football team. That's what they pride themselves on, is rushing the ball and being physical, and so to flip the script on that is huge for us.
Last 10 weeks, think about this, J-Mac. The last 10 weeks, because they were all banged up early, Tampa's got the number one offense in the league. Can't run on them. They'll run on you. Best left tackle. Look at Baker's numbers yesterday against the number one defense. 22 of 27. Passer rating of 135. 11. And Baker's not a dink and dunk guy. Baker's going to throw it down the field. And he's got a little reckless. He and Darnold both have a little reckless. That's okay. Mahomes has ugly picks. This is not Tua. Everything's not underneath. Everything's not a bubble screen. I mean, I can't even watch Miami. I can't take Miami seriously. If it's under 74 degrees, it's dink and dunk circus. I'm watching Baker. He is letting it rip down the field. I would have somebody's going to be an upset in the first round of the playoffs. Whoever Tampa plays, right now Green Bay would have to go to Tampa. Yikes.
Okay. Let's talk about this. I disagree with Colin in terms of this being house money. I don't think the Buccaneers see it as house money. I think they believe that they belong here and that they're a top team in the NFL, especially the NFC. So this isn't house money to them. They believe that they got their sights set on the NFC Championship game. Last year, they felt as though that they were a play away from making that happen, from beating the Lions. So I wholeheartedly disagree with that. And they have beaten the Eagles and the Lions throughout this season, two obviously top teams in the NFL. So I wholeheartedly disagree with this idea that this is being house money. I know that some of the media feels that way because the media didn't have necessarily high hopes for the Buccaneers, and Vegas didn't. They had one of the lowest percentages to make the playoffs. Not even close. And it was. They held the Chargers 0 for 6 on third down. 11 carries for 32 yards. Justin Herbert was 21 for 37, 195 yards. The Bucs had 506 total yards. The Chargers had 206. I mean, the Buccaneers, I don't know where I almost just said the 49ers. The Buccaneers put up 40, and yet only one touchdown was in the red zone. That's pretty remarkable. And when you look at some of these other teams, what they've done against the Chargers, like, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs, struggling to beat them both times, and you see what the Bucs were able to do offensively. It's very impressive. Now, the way how I look at it like this, let's just simplify this for just in the dumbest way possible, in the most bare bones way possible. You have great teams, you have good teams, you have bad teams. It's obviously going to be more distributed than that, but you have great teams, good teams, bad teams. Now, let's just say on the surface, let's not overthink this example at all, but let's just say on the surface, the Bucs are just a good team. I think it's widely seen that the Chargers are just a good team. They're not great, they're not bad. They're not this top team. No one's really picking them to go off and win the Super Bowl this year. They're a good team. They got Justin Herbert, Harbaugh. They're a work in progress. They're a couple years or so away. And let's just say the Bucs are a good team. They've dealt with their injuries. They're a harder team to evaluate because they've obviously had some really nice wins, but they had some injuries and whatnot, lost a couple tough battles, especially losing to the Falcons, which honestly, the way how the Falcons have been playing, those losses kind of age more poorly when you see how Cousins and the Falcons have been playing. So they have a couple bad losses. And so let's just say that they're a good team. Again, I don't get lost in this evaluation. Don't come and fight me in the comments saying, what do you mean they're a good team? They're a great team. Just follow for 1 second. They rolled another good team. They dominated another good team. It really does. And it wasn't one of those like fluky rolls where I was like, yeah, this, that, and the third. Like we could explain it. Like, no, because especially what they were able to do offensively on the Chargers defense. Now, the Chargers don't have much going on offensively. So I'm not going to go ahead and say that was amazing that they held the Chargers to 17. Like, that's kind of par for the course in a lot of ways. And especially the Chargers have no run game at this point. Zero. They've really, really been struggling big time. And Justin Herbert, just really only has like one target to reliably throw to, quite frankly. But that defense, we know that defense is for real. And so to be able to pretty much just do whatever you want, 22 for 27, 288 yards, 4 touchdowns is wildly impressive. So even if this was just simply two good teams going head to head, then the fact that they beat them so much and so easily, that to me is more of an indicator than anything else. So I totally agree. If you're the Lions, especially now that the Lions are all banged up, if you're the Eagles, the Packers, the Vikings, I think these all end up being really, really good games. I know the Buccaneers are going to believe that they can beat any of those teams, as they should feel that way, because they can. Then you just kind of get down to like, what's the most likelihood of any of these things happening? To play the Vikings, that'll benefit them because that's where the seating is. They could be home again, quite frankly. The Lions, if you have to play them on the road, you're in a dome. Probably. But if you're going to play Philly, you will be guaranteed probably be a pretty cold weather game. Can handle the cold. It'll be really fascinating to see kind of how that, if there's any snow, rain, if any of that kind of would impact a game like that, if they got to that situation. But I'm trying to think of any other random teams where I feel as though that's really, seems like Philly, because again, I guess technically the Green Bay Packers could win the division, but that is really unlikely. So it seems to me that the only like real tough cold weather game, outdoor elements that could actually influence this game in a way that could have, again, legit influence would most likely be against the Philadelphia Eagles, Rams, warm weather. Let's say it's the 49ers, which I don't think it's going to be the 49ers. So it would be Seattle, you know what I'm saying? So like the Buccaneers are in a really good situation in that regard. And depending on their seeding, if they pull away with the division, which it feels like they will, they probably wouldn't have to face the Eagles. Again, quick math. It also depends on the seeding a little bit. Most likely not until the NFC Championship game. Most likely. Again, you'll have to kind of like do all the random variations of how the seeding ends up unfolding. But that's most likely what it would happen. Technically, the other cold weather team that you would probably have to face is the Commanders, but there's no, I mean, you would have the home field for that, so that wouldn't matter, and the advantage would clearly, obviously, be the Bucs going up against a young rookie quarterback. So yeah, I think the Bucs are in a fascinating situation again, especially with the Lions being injured now. I mean, that's obviously a massive benefit to any teams facing them. I'm recording this video before the Vikings play versus the Bears, so for all I know, the Vikings got rocked. They got beat by 1,000 points, a record 1,000 points. I honestly don't know, so we won't talk about the potential of facing the Vikings or how good the Vikings are. For all I know, they just got completely embarrassed, or they dominated, and everyone's now afraid of them and considers them to be the top team in the NFL. But the way the Bucs is actually pretty good because, like I said, I think any of those road games that they would have to face would actually, I don't want to say benefit them, but it wouldn't necessarily hurt them, especially considering them coming from Tampa. The only real advantage that I think for home field would be the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Philadelphia Eagles, again, wouldn't be until the NFC Championship game. And so, obviously, once you get there, it's going to be like all bets are off. Let's go, right? It would be like maybe like who's healthier at that time. What is the weather like? It could easily be unseasonably warm. It could be brutal freezing cold. It could be snowing. And at that point, it's like, well, then again, who knows, right? Like could be windy. I mean, like who honestly knows? That it really does become unpredictable at that point. So definitely pretty exciting stuff for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield moving forward. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield this season? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.